The political season is well underway in Topeka. In fact, it's now off and running after a busy week. Governor Laura Kelly took the oath of office for a second term Monday, pointing to the work still needed to be done to boost the economy, education, and health care. She also urged her colleagues in the legislative branch to work together to get things done.
The people of Kansas are civil. Its elected leaders must also be civil in the tone of our discourse and in the manner in which we govern.
The governor would have had a State of the State address this past week, too, but had to deal with a false positive COVID test. The speech is now scheduled for later this month. Across the Capitol, state representatives and senators got to work starting the 2023 session. Kansas lawmakers will no doubt battle on what to do with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, along with several other issues, some of which you heard a lot about during the campaign season last year. Here to talk about it all, please welcome back Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and Sherman Smith, editor-in-chief of the Kansas Reflector, joining us from Topeka. Welcome, gentlemen. First, let's talk about this $2 billion elephant in the room. Sherman, how are lawmakers going to tackle this surplus?
Well, lawmakers love tax cuts more than anything else, so they look at this as an opportunity to hand out tax cuts, but there's also a recognition that the economy could turn downward. We have inflation worries that could drive that, and so they also want to be cautious about spending all of the $2 billion.
Yeah, and Brian, we know that even Republicans leaders were saying, let's do a flat tax, and there were some of those promises that we had heard in the campaign.
That's right, and I think Republican leadership will look to scale back taxes. This might be an area where there could be some bipartisan agreement, because of course, as Governor Kelly unveiled her budget proposals this week, one of her top priorities is to accelerate the reduction in the state's food sales tax, something she was pushing for throughout her first term, and which now might be a step closer to reality.
Right, and Sherman, there were a couple of other ideas that the governor had even talked about in her campaign too that she wants in this budget.
Yeah, she wants to eliminate the sales tax on feminine hygiene products. She's proposed now a 4-day sales tax holiday for back to school. Other ideas like that you imagine would get packaged together in some grand deal, bipartisan deal that would, maybe even look at a flat tax as part of that.
Of course, voters last year overwhelmingly voted to protect abortion rights, but then you saw Republicans come back out and say, you know what, we need to further limit abortions. We heard a lot of the same rhetoric again this past week, talking about unregulated abortions, even though we should add that they are heavily regulated in Kansas.
That's right. Anyone who thought that Kansas legislature was done talking about abortion is going to be in for a surprise this season. Certainly, some of the Republican leaders are calling for trying to add restrictions that would not go so far as to trigger a violation of the state constitution, which voters reaffirmed upholds abortion rights. But that might mean moving to an earlier point in pregnancy, the limit on when abortions would be legal. It might also mean increasing funding for crisis pregnancy centers, which are centers that provide some healthcare services to women, but generally discourage women from getting abortions.
And another way, Sherman, that we see lawmakers at least try to approach this issue is floating a bill that would potentially let the legislature impeach state Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, they want to make it a little bit easier to get rid of justices they don't like. And I think just overall, they're trying to figure out where exactly the line is under the Supreme Court ruling a couple of years ago, in terms of these restrictions. How far can they push that? They're also fighting this battle with existing restrictions that are going to be challenged in court. We've already seen a restriction overturned on using telemedicine to prescribe the abortion pills. I think this is going to be a raging debate throughout the session.
Yeah, and many Republicans also, as we say, are starting to go back on those campaign promises and those big issues that they tried to run on, right? Banning transgender athletes in girls and women's sports. That seems to be getting a lot of the oxygen in the room right now, too.
I think that's right, Cody. I think education is always going to be a major topic in the state legislature, but this year, between the ban on transgender athletes participating in the sports of their gender, and also a lot of concern about what's being taught in classrooms, which Republicans frame as restoring parental rights, but Democrats see as trying to limit the information that's made available to students.
All right, let's talk about Washington real quick. Brian, before we go, I want to mention some of the major news that we've been watching on Capitol Hill. The House Ways and Means Committee, which has jurisdiction over taxes and social programs, will be led by a Missouri Republican Congressman, Jason Smith. What could the impact of this decision be?
Well, that remains to be seen. He won a contested battle to win that seat. He represents the boot heel of Missouri. He has been eager to see tax cuts. He's been eager to talk about how Social Security and Medicare dollars are spent. It's not necessarily a position that's going to lead to a lot of pork barrel spending coming to Missouri, but it could be a platform from which he can advance what has been a pretty conservative agenda. We know that Representative Smith is very close with Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and that may help advance Missouri's interests.
Right, but it does not necessarily mean Missouri is going to be getting a little extra.
Yeah, the truth is that's probably not the committee where that's more likely to happen. Now, we might want to keep an eye on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, where another Missouri representative, Sam Graves, who represents the 6th District, the northern third of the state, they do have a lot of money to hand out, including some control over that $1.7 trillion infrastructure package that was passed last Congress. We'll see how that affects the Kansas City metro area.
All right, we'll be watching. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Brian Ellison, Sherman Smith. Thanks so much for coming on.